No thermostat, no thermostat, no thermostat, no thermostat, no thermostat, no thermostat. Basically, there's not a single thermostat in this entire reptile room. And I can almost guarantee to you that the way that you've been taught to use reptile thermostats is wrong. The old school way of using a reptile thermostat is you kind of use it to control the output, and that is bad. Typically what you get told is to have a thermostat probe somewhere like here, and let's say that peg represents your thermostat probe. They would say put your probe there to control how hot your basking spot gets. The reason this is wrong is because the really healthy part of your basking lamp is infrared, but when you dim a basking lamp and it drops below 80% dimmed, all that infrared just drops off the face of the earth. So by using your thermostat to magically try and control the output of your heating elements, you're actually taking all the health benefits and taking that really, really valuable infrared away from your reptile. So we want to make sure that our basking lamp is basically hardly ever, if ever, even dimmed at all. So rather than using a thermostat to try and control your basking lamps to somehow magically get magical temperatures of air temperature and ambient temperatures across your enclosure, you need to stop viewing it as an all-in-one thing and start viewing it as two separate systems. Because just like UVB, and it has a certain strength at a certain distance, that's exactly how basking lamps work. So what you want to do is think of heat lamps in the same way you would a UVB lamp. In the same way, I can measure how much UVB is coming off of my UVB lamp, I can measure how much infrared is coming off of my heat lamp. So you effectively need to know the strength of your basking spot and then know that as a separate system to your air temperatures, which the thermostat is for. So you need to look at your species and go, okay, it needs a basking spot to be this strong. Now that I know what its basking behaviors and basking strength is going to be, what is the ambient air temperature that's going to be comfortable? And here's the other thing. Everyone's wrong about that too. Look at this video. What I did was I put a thermometer in a light box. Now this is a crappy light box for photography off of Amazon. Really, really weak little LEDs. But this shows you that even under LEDs, the light hitting the probe of the thermometer was tricking it into a higher reading than the temperature of the actual air temperature. It's like when you go outside and you get in the shade out of the sun. The air temperature in the shade hasn't changed from that in the sun. The only difference is in basking light, out of basking light, in radiation, out of radiation. Most of you are already familiar with the idea of giving light and shade in the enclosure, and that exactly ties into how we measure the air temperatures. When people are taught to measure an ambient hot temperature, an ambient mid temperature, an ambient cool end temperature, the different readings of those different thermometers in that enclosure are just reading the different strength of light that's influencing that probe above the actual air temperature in that enclosure. If we have, for example, a 4x2x2, the air temperature from one side to the other will vary by about 2 degrees. Really, it's the same. So when you have thermometers that are 10 degrees, orders of magnitudes different between two different spots, it's nothing to do with the air temperature, it's the light upon the probe of the thermometer. That's all it is. So it's actually far simpler than everyone's trying to make it out to be. As you look at your species, what's the range of air temperatures that it can be during the day? Okay, let's say that the range is 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. What I would do is use my thermostat in a completely different way. I'm not trying to use the thermostat to control the intensity of my basking spot. That's a separate system. I do that by choosing the correct wattage. I use my thermostat as an emergency shut-off feature if air temperatures in that enclosure reach a critical high. Let's look at my diamond python setup. What you're going to see is actually my probes are dangling in the shaded end, nowhere near the basking spot. So let's say the air temperature of the range of my species is 20 to 30. I would put this probe dangling in the air in the shaded end and set it to like 30 or 32 at a maximum safety shut-off time. If the air temperatures get to that stage, then as a safety feature, it's going to turn off my basking spot. but I'm not using it to control the output of the basking spot at all times. I've done that by selecting the correct strength. And the only time I ever even have it turn on is if there's a heat wave or something happens and things get unusually warm. But for the most part, it sits dormant, waiting to kick in and turn off the basking spot if air temperatures get to that critical high temperature. And that temperature is whatever I set depending on the species. So in reality, you need one thermometer, one thermostat, and you're done. You don't need 15 different thermometers. There is one thermometer. So why am I not using all these thermostats? Well, because I am one. If the reason that I'm using it is when it hits a critical temperature in the room or in the enclosure, well, I can manually do that myself. The thermostat comes on at only a critical moment. And if I'm working at home in my office with the enclosures, I look around, look at all the thermometers, and I know what's up. So I'll just manually turn heat off during a heat wave if I feel I need to, because I'm manually acting like the emergency shut-off feature that I use the thermostats for. Don't use it to try and control the basking bulb, because what you actually do is deny your animal the infrared you bought the lamp for in the first place. A lot of keepers, a lot of reptile shops, a lot of people that teach new people how to use the equipment don't have a fundamental understanding of the physics of how this equipment even works. So there you have it. At my entire collection, only one enclosure has a thermostat, and it's the one that you're on right now, the one in the garage with the diamond python, because I'm not in the room feeling and looking at the temperatures constantly. And that's why I don't use thermostats like other keepers. If you like this video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.